morning, everyone. I'm from Sentivated. We're, as John said, mobile specialists. We're humming and ahhing about the word agency. We tend to be specialists in implementing mobile technologies, no matter what it is, and using that within a kind of marketing services environment and framework. So it's slightly more than an agency in a kind of marketing communications definition. But I'm going to talk to you today about mobile commerce and the use of mobile specifically in a kind of retail environment and transactional with your customers. And as we've heard already this morning, mobile is a hot topic. And what we're seeing with the growth of smartphones and high-end devices that are more and more able to deliver the promise that O2 and BT gave us 10 plus years ago, is that customers are now beginning to do what they want to do on their phones, what they do on desktops, and brands are beginning to catch up with that activity and that understanding, and beginning to deliver what customers are doing on their phones already with their brands. There is an element of early stage development where we'll see later on that a lot of sites are kind of in a very vanilla phase. There's a lot of similarity in layout and design and things, and I think we're starting to see how that can move on, and I'll talk about some of that. As the IAB showed us at a conference last October, actual commercial transactions, and I don't just mean kind of premium SMS downloads and crazy frog ringtones, but real credit card transactions for products are beginning to happen through mobile phones, and we're beginning to see really kind of interesting growth in that area. As Andy's from Sky has kind of shown us, that mobile is properly beginning to integrate with marketing communications across the piece, with traditional media channels, and being used as the call to action piece, and bringing to life call to action across a whole raft of media communications. Again, this is taken from the IAB M-Commerce study from last October, and it's really just showing that for M-Commerce, people are doing it. Over half of the UK have been shown to engage in some form of M-Commerce transaction in the last 12 months. People like doing it. They say that mobile is becoming the most, the simplest and most ubiquitous way to engage with some commerce when the inspiration strikes. And that kind of feeds back to stats that we've had over the last God knows how many years about the phone being with you and always on, wherever you are. And there's all sorts of interesting stats coming out about how many people are texting and viewing mobile internet sites when they're sat on the loo and things. And all the predictions are showing that M-Commerce is just going to continue to grow as the phones get better, as the networks get better, and as user interfaces and user experiences get better. This is only going to increase. 27% of adults with phones have used their mobile to actually buy a product through with a card or bank details, not by paying premium SMS or by bill. And although paying through the bill and premium SMS is still important, this is an interesting step change, that it's becoming normal behaviour to do what we have traditionally classified as e-commerce is now beginning to happen through the mobile phone, and in many cases it's happening whether the retailer is ready for it or not. It's going through their normal desktop mobile site in a very clunky and slightly awkward process, squished onto a smaller screen and with different data input methods. Interesting, 30% of UK shoppers have visited a website on their mobile. 67% have done that in that particular retailer's store, checking stock, checking sizes, checking colour options, and a quarter of them have also looked at competitors' websites in that store, so they're price comparing, and maybe even stock comparing. If your particular store hasn't got that item, they're checking to see if your competitors down the road might have it, either online or in store. So M-Commerce and shopping behaviours are beginning to happen, and the phone is enriching and widening the shopping experience, even in a physical bricks and mortar environment. It's still a difficult process, and that comes back to the fact that sites are still being developed. Customers are probably ahead of brands in many respects in terms of what they want to do through their phone. They're happier and more comfortable with the functionality of their phone, and they're kind of getting frustrated with the fact that the sites and functionality isn't there yet. apps are not necessarily the solution yet. They might become the solution, but having an app and having an m-commerce app is not necessarily going to be the driver to enabling m-commerce. That's not to say it won't, but it's not necessarily the be-all and end-all. And as Andy's talked about, I think integrating with back-office systems, beginning to bring through personalisation and recognition, and this probably applies more than mobile, it's marketing generally, but that personalisation and optimization of recognizing the user is going to enhance and encourage commerce through phones. Interestingly, a survey from the back end of last year is showing that over half of UK firms haven't even looked at their own websites, formally looked at their own websites on phones. Of those that have, they kind of understand that they've got a suboptimal experience. And that the functionality that they take for granted on their desktop environment, use of flash video for argument's sake, is not necessarily always there on phones, and different devices display things in different ways and mash up content and break your formatting and everything else. And I mean, imagine this statistic is probably changing almost day by day, but the survey was showing that 65% of firms haven't optimised their sites for mobile and had no plans to do so. I'm hoping that decreases quite rapidly. There's a few slides here about us, which I will whiz through, but needless to say, we engage with brands directly and also through agencies, and are happy to work either way, whichever is appropriate. We manage all elements of the mobile marketing mix, from acquisition behaviours, CRM and ongoing customer engagement, and also commerce, and have our own in-house technology platform and technical expertise to kind of bring all this stuff to life for you, and a raft of high-profile clients. So mobile app or mobile web? I think there's no real right answer to that question. The real thing to take on board is there are a number of different factors to bear in mind on that decision-making process. The interesting piece that New Media Age shows is that apps are cool, they can give you a lot of rich and deep functionality. As we've heard from Sky, you've got to be able to get people into the specific deep place within an app store to get to your app, and they've got to download it. There's a whole raft of steps they've got to do. They've then got to remember it's on their memory and not delete you, and you've got to make it kind of relevant and repeat usage. Mobile websites can reach a lot more people. There's a vast number more phones out there that are capable of surfing the internet in varying degrees of richness, and they can't all necessarily kind of, the iPhone is only 10% of mobile phone devices in the UK. If you create an iPhone app, you're still excluding 90% of your potential audience that might be very interested in actually accessing your data and content, and you've made the choice to exclude those people on that basis. So there's probably some kind of hybrid decision in there. This table is really just showing there's kind of pros and cons to various versions of that. Obviously, if you go down the app route, you're probably going to need to build multiple apps, or you're going to need to go into a cross-platform app, the web app, which is beginning to be talked about now, which is kind of a layer that you download onto your phone, and actually the content comes through the internet. So it's an interesting hybrid, less development time costs to get yourself across multiple devices quicker. If we're looking at mobile internet sites, as I said earlier, there's a degree of uniformity about design at the moment across a whole raft of retailers, and this is kind of a snapshot of menu bars from a raft of current UK high street retailers, and as you can see, they're all very similar at the moment. There's not much brand differentiation going on at that level, and I would imagine it's quite difficult even for the industry to kind of necessarily from that list alone identify which brands are there, let alone the public at large. It starts to get a bit better when you bring the brands to life across the top of it, but it's still an element of uniformity. And as we'll see, there's a lot, customers are requiring the personalisation. There's a lot of very simple technology you can bring to life now to start to change that uniformity and to actually kind of bring to life the capabilities of the mobile device. We created a site for Jaguar in the States last year for the launch of the XJ product, which you can still visit on your phones over here. And if you had an iPhone or an Android phone with a touch screen, we use the functionalities of those phones. You can identify that that's the phone visiting that website. And we displayed a car. It understood that it was a touch screen. You could actually rotate the car. You could change the paint color of the car. You could do a lot more engagement with that particular site, and it was a mobile site, not an app. If you had a lower spec feature phone, you were still able to access the website, but instead of having that interaction, you were just getting an animated GIF, and it still was a very nicely designed and laid out site, and you wouldn't necessarily have felt you were getting a second division experience on your phone compared to the iPhone experience. But it was delivering a brand specific experience that was tailored and wasn't too kind of cookie cutterish in its approach. And I think we're looking at redesigning our own website at the moment, and we're taking a fundamentally different approach to the mobile version of the site compared to what we want to show and talk about on the desktop version. And I think more and more that's what we need to think about in kind of mobile sphere and environment.